Welcome. This video is for instructing backwards crossovers or learning backwards crossovers using the idea of automatic learning. Now, I've discussed the idea of automatic learning multiple times. So rather than trying or attempting as a coach to cue every single movement that should occur, rather we should set up tasks that force players into perfect technique, thereby directly teaching their subconscious part of their brain, which is in charge of their movement. This is circumventing kind of a more commonly thought way of teaching, which is that you need to make things or teach things explicitly with cueing first, and then it slowly becomes automatic. But new research shows that you can actually get more efficient and faster learning if you use what's called implicit learning, otherwise known in my case as automatic learning. Now, one thing I noticed with backwards crossovers, at least instruction, is that there's a lot of focus on stepping and usually skating backwards around in circles. So, doing the 5 circles as the classic drill. Now, one issue with that is that in games, crossovers are used for acceleration laterally, whereas, I think in figure skating, backwards crossovers are meant for acceleration as well, but also turning. Hockey players tend not to use crossovers a ton for turning, but they, especially defensemen, use crossovers for quick acceleration, and it's in a kind of lateral way. And I'll show you how that kind of makes sense as we go here. So, what is our first drill to force players into perfect technique? Well, that first drill starts right here. So basically, there's a few ways you can set this up. If you maybe set up cones, or I'm doing it between the goal line and the boards, or you can do it between tops of the circles. You got to figure out the size of the player and what works for you and your team. But I just want to show you, we're going to start with a crossover, and again, another common way of teaching crossovers is do like the standing chop things where you make little running steps in a crossover. Again, this is not reminiscent of how crossovers actually occur in a game situation. So I'm just going to show you the first progression here that we would do to teach someone how to accelerate using backwards crossovers. So here it is. So the idea is to cover a lot of ground. So we'll just kind of go over it slowly. The idea is to drive laterally and cover lots of ground. So you'll see that I'm going to drive off both edges. So first this inside edge on my right foot, then on my outside edge of my left foot. And then as I'm moving laterally, I'm going to just slide into the boards or to the line if you're using a line. And the idea is to cover a lot of ground with one crossover step. And now I'm going back the other way. So push off the inside edge, and then glide. Show you one more time. So these are big steps, not small steps. We're not going in a circle backwards. We're driving, and it's almost like a running step, moving laterally. There we are. So now, next progression we'd use is, let's just double check and make sure this is the right progression. Yes, this is the right progression. So now we're going to kind of go back at like a 45-degree angle. So we're still essentially moving laterally, but now we just aim the body to face 45 degrees to the right. So now I'm accelerating laterally, but that lateral acceleration occurs at a 45-degree angle back. So I'm going to show you that here. So we'll go over that slowly. So as you can see, it's basically the same step. So I'm turning my body, right, 45-degree angle, and this is almost as if you were to draw an imaginary line, it would look like the exact same thing. So I'm crossing over, driving the exact same way as we were before. Now I'm going to open my hip, and then, so I've opened my front foot, my right foot, and then glide a bit, and then stop. Now I'm going to readjust myself, and you'll see that my body is going to turn again 45 degrees, and I'm going to be moving laterally, but because my lateral angle is now facing back, I'm heading backwards. And I'm going to stop, open the hip, and then stop. You can choose whether you want to open the hip or just slide. I like to do the open hip because it's going to teach a bit of hip control as well, teach players to open the hip, and this would double as training for your forward start acceleration. Now, to show you how this translates to full speed normal backwards crossovers, we'll watch it at full speed. So once again, we'll break it down slow motion for you. So again, if we start out, what do we have here? So what happens? I go to turn 45 degrees, and then what happens here? Basically the exact same motion that we had before. Now it just comes down to linking it together, and I'm going to give, I think, another few crossovers strides before I shift my body angle the other way and head back the other way. Right, so now my hips come around, and I'm going to head back the other direction. Now, what is the critical transition piece? So as we can see again, moving laterally, bodies facing a 45-degree angle. And now the critical transition piece here is going to be this C-cut on my right foot, which is just about to plant. And then there's the C-cut, and then that's where the body angle changes. And we head back the other way. So again, this isn't necessarily the right or perfect way to do this, but it is one way that we've found to set up tasks that force players into perfect technique, which is one of the criterions for automatic learning. And in our opinion, it seems that automatic learning leads to the fastest, most stable improvements in skill. So give this a shot if you're a coach, give this a shot if you're a player. Let us know how it goes, and hopefully you experience some wonderful results from it. Good luck.